Hello, I'm Blaze, and welcome back to Warframe. And today I am very happily bringing you Warframe's new resident pretty boy, Nezha. Absolutely awful Johnny Cash references aside. Also, thank you to Shy for telling us all how to pronounce his name.
How do you pronounce that?
Nezha.
Acquiring Nezha's parts can be done through daily sortie missions, which can be something of a bear. Digital Extremes has at least confirmed that they are a permanent addition to sortie drops, so there isn't any pressure at least. He also has the distinction of being the first non-primed Warframe that you can trade parts for if you feel like going through the trade chat. And finally, if you're like me and just want to grab a hold of him immediately, you can instead pick him up from the market, pre-built with his own Warframe slot and a pre-installed reactor for 275 platinum. Statistically, he weighs in at about what you might expect for such a slender build. He has the joint weakest shields and lowest health pool in the game at just 75 each, going up to 225 at rank 30. Even with his moderate armor rating of 175, this leaves him as being extremely fragile and, as such, taking direct fire is something you should avoid where possible. Fortunately, in order to help out with that, he brings along a reasonably speedy 1.15 times sprint speed modifier, and he has a high base power capacity at 150, going up to 225 at rank 30, and benefiting quite nicely from primed flow. Moving along to his mod polarities, his aura comes along pre-modified with a dash, which is definitely something I like to see, and his mod polarities have 1D and 1V polarity. Good to add on a survivability mod and either power strength or primed continuity. Additionally, not apparent in the arsenal screen, he comes along with an innate reduction to his ground friction and an inbuilt maglev effect to make his slide faster. This might not sound like much, but combined with his sprint speed, it lets you really whip him around all over the place at high speed. A very good thing to get out of the line of fire and generally move around. And if you want to do something silly, you can add the actual maglev mod on top of that for even more slip sliding away. Coming along with his small health pool, large power base, and high movement speed, right away it may be apparent that he's not really the type to stand toe-to-toe with high-level enemies. And you would largely be right, although he does have some tricks up his sleeves to get the job done. Don't let his disarming looks fool you indeed. Nezha's first ability is Firewalker. No, not that one. After a brief casting animation costing 25 energy, he will ignite his boots and leave a trail of fire in his wake. This will drain 5 energy per second while active. The fire trail itself persists for 10 seconds after being left behind. Allies that walk through the fire will have their status effects removed, while enemies that walk through the fire will receive 200 damage per second, and not only that, are also extremely likely to suffer a fire status proc, setting them into a panicked flailing animation and being left helpless. And on top of all of that, Nezha will receive a 20% movement speed bonus so he can zip around the place even faster, and facilitate both his own survival and the ability to wreath the whole place in flame. His first ability has a whole lot going on, as you can see. My recommendation is to completely ignore the damage dealt. The real prizes here are his movement speed increase and being able to lock the area down with fire. Enemies that wander into the fire will almost certainly end up just flailing around, both halting their movement and their outgoing fire to leave them easy pickings. Also, as a little extra touch, during a bullet jump the fire will trail behind you in the air. I'm not entirely sure what use this is, but it certainly looks cool, so there's that. The flame's damage per second is affected by power strength, while power duration affects the energy cost per second and how long the flames will persist. Nezha's second ability is Blazing Chakram, and works similarly to the glaive-thrown melee weapons. The ability is also split into 2 halves. Pressing the power button once will launch the universe ring towards your point of aim for 25 energy. The ring can bounce between nearby enemies and will knock down any enemies struck, set them on fire, and place a mark on whatever enemies were hit for 10 seconds. If an enemy is killed while marked, it will send out a healing pulse, restoring 225 health to all allies within 8 meters. This healing doesn't sound like much, but it is the entirety of Nezha's base health, so it works for getting him back up to good condition. The second half of the ability is as follows. Pressing the power button while it's in flight will have Nezha immediately teleport to the universe ring's current location as long as there is a straight line of sight between him and the ring. This is itself useful for mobility and can be used to hit an enemy to mark them, teleport in, and use a ground finisher while they're knocked down for a health restore. And that's not all for Blazing Chakram either. If you teleport to the ring while Firewalker is active, you explode, dealing 1,250 damage to enemies within 6 meters, and also tends to knock things over. However, Firewalker will be deactivated in the process, so make sure you remember to turn it back on if you want to remain walking crowd control. The health restoration, burn damage, and Firewalker explosion damage are all affected by power strength, while the explosion and heal ranges are affected by power range. Sadly, the actual travel distance of the Universe Ring is not affected by mods, which seems a bit odd. Nezha's third ability is Warding Halo, and is for the most part a weaker version of Rhino's Iron Skin. After a somewhat long casting animation and 75 energy, Nezha will set up the Warding Halo around him. After that, the Halo will remain invincible for up to 3 seconds, during which time incoming damage is added to its health. The Halo's starting health is also 1,337. Why that number? I don't know, maybe Digital Extremes watched that Super Rhino MLG video a few too many times. Warding Halo does, however, come with its own effects, aside from being an attempt to make Daddy Rhino proud. Enemies that come within 2 meters of Nezha while Warding Halo is active will be staggered and dealt 125 damage per second, repeatedly. It's actually reasonably entertaining to see melee units be completely unable to do anything useful to you, and you can use this to slide up to an enemy and lock them into staggers. However, this is a short-ranged aura, so care should be taken for any enemies firing at you from mid-range. As a final note, Warding Halo will also protect Nezha from knockdowns while it's active, which is quite nice. But unlike Iron Skin, it will only protect you from knockdowns. Other status effects will still have their full effect, which is extremely annoying. Nezha is already fragile, surely he could use the ability to resist that stuff even more than Rhino. Oh well. The damage of the Halo's aura will be affected by power strength, the range of the aura will be affected by power range, and the Halo's ability to absorb damage will be affected by both power strength and Nezha's armor. So it's a good idea to not nuke your power strength if you're in a high level mission. That extra safety net really ends up mattering after a while. Finally, Nezha's fourth ability is Divine Spears. The immediate comparison is once again with Rhino and his Stomp, which isn't far off the mark. Divine Spears having a shorter range but longer duration. Activating the ability will, after an animation and consuming 100 energy, cause the spears to launch from the ground under all in-range enemies, impaling them, suspending them helplessly in the air, and susceptible to ground finishers. The effect of this occurs over 19 meters, and lasts for 12 seconds. Additionally, the spears deal 600 damage, both when they first pierce the enemy and then once again when the spears retract, either after the duration runs out, or you activate the ability a second time to end it early. I am gonna go ahead and say this right now, forget about the damage. This is a wide area crowd control ability. There is no limit to the number of enemies that can be skewered on those spears, so this is a great way to leave a wide area completely helpless to your onslaught. Or get things to hold nice and still so you can smack them with blazing Chakram for health. And when modded for range, it affects up to a pretty respectable 47.5 meter radius. That's not bad at all. Although currently it does seem that the Arctic Eximus units are able to resist the impalement. I'm not sure if that's intended or not, but it's worth keeping in mind for now. It also doesn't seem to work on flying units, which is somewhat annoying. The damage of Divine Spears is affected by power strength, the effect radius is affected by range mods, and the impalement duration is affected by duration mods. It's also worth noting that you can actually cast Divine Spears while in the air, which is recommended to make sure that you don't stay still during the whole animation. All in all, Nezha's abilities are full of crowd control, and he is able to lock wide areas down basically permanently. Using Firewalker basically tracks a free-form Firefright equipped Fire Blast after him. Blazing Chakram is a nice knockdown for priority targets and some healing. Warding Halo will help him take a few hits and protect him from anything that gets close by stagger locking them. And Divine Spears basically just ruins everything's day. I love it. What I don't love quite so much is that he can die easily due to his low health and shields, which is why Firewalker's movement speed bonus and keeping Warding Halo active are so important. Those points in mind, it's time to talk mods. The way I see it, there are two ways to go for him. You can forget about his solo survivability in exchange for team utility as crowd control, or you can try and keep him as a jack of all trades by avoiding going into negatives in general. In both cases, primed flow and high efficiency are musts, considering you need to be using his powers to survive. I'm serious. Aim to keep Firewalker and Warding Halo active at all times at the very least, or he won't be standing for long. However, this does leave 3 mod slots taken up already. My personal choice for full crowd control is to go maximum range with some duration. Overextended, stretch, and the new Cunning Drift for a total of 250% power range. And add primed continuity and constitution for duration to offset fleeting expertise's duration penalty and add some more. Round things off with vitality. With this build you'll be running around with Firewalker and casting Divine Spears a lot. Warding Halo won't absorb much damage, but it should protect you from the occasional hit and also help you avoid getting knocked down. This also leaves Blazing Chakram with a fairly weak heal but a long ranged one. So, feel free to throw the ring around to keep knocking things over and keep your health topped off. As for solo survivability, this one's a bit trickier, and super janky. I'm still working things out, but currently I have Quick Thinking as a way to act as a safety net if something breaks through Warding Halo, Steel Fiber to increase Warding Halo's health, and no Vitality because 1, there's no space for it, and 2, going up from 225 health to 500-ish doesn't help that much compared to damage mitigation through Armour and Warding Halo. Because remember, Quick Thinking's conversion takes your armour into account. Also no Rage mod for the same reason. 225 health doesn't let Rage do much work. You may find yourself relying on energy restores or Syndicate procs as a result. Primed continuity also to balance out duration loss from fleeting expertise, stretch and cutting drift for a reasonably respectable 160% power range, and handspring in the Exila slot because getting knocked down at the wrong time will get you murdered. Substituting either fleeting expertise or streamline for constitution, and handspring for something else may also be worth playing around with as well. That aside, he is slender and effeminate and I love it. I mentioned this already in my 2,500 subscriber thank you video, but I've been waiting for a frame with this body type for a while. His build is fairly similar to my own actually, and I consider myself to not really exist on the standard male-female gender binary exactly, so this kind of feels like representation. It helps that he's also pretty cute, in my opinion anyway. My main point is that I enjoy seeing gender boundaries fucked with. That probably wasn't the intention, but I don't care! On top of all of that, he has a really useful skill set. Yes, it could be argued that most of it is pretty unoriginal. His Warding Halo and Divine Spears are basically Iron Skin and Stomp, and he takes a lot of cues from Ember, and people have complained that he doesn't do enough damage, even though he's a crowd control frame and not a damage frame. But none of it bothers me. I like how he looks, I enjoy how he plays, he seems useful in a lot of situations, and he takes a blue and pink color scheme really well. I could not get this to work to my satisfaction on any other frame, but here we are. Bullseye, 10 out of 10, best Warframe ever of all time. Okay, I'm done gushing. There are some tweaks I would like to see made. Mogamu brought up a few. Particularly, I would like to see Firewalker's width affected by range, and I'd really appreciate it if Warding Halo could at least also protect Nezha from energy drain, because seriously? Also currently, Ancient Healers absorb the effect of Divine Spears, but that at least is a known bug, so hopefully that gets fixed soon. But while there is always room for improvement, I am also quite happy with Nezha already, and I definitely recommend him highly. Thank you for watching a look at Nezha. All comments are appreciated, and I hope to see you around next time. For other Warframe reviews, feel free to click down below to check out my look at Avara or the Explosive Talons. And as always, good luck, have fun, and take care.